So here we are, the end of September creeping in, and Celtics already racked up their fourth goalless draw of the season. That's right, 4. And we're not even in October yet. Just for some perspective, we only had 3 0-0s across the entire campaign last season. The year before that, 2. Even under Ange Postecoglou, with all the rotation and experimentation, there were only 3 scoreless draws. And now, in the space of a few weeks, we've already matched and passed that. It's mad when you think about it. 7 of our last 8 games have been goalless at halftime, which tells you everything you need to know about the kind of football we've been served up lately. Now look, nobody's demanding we win every single match 5-0. But come on, it's got to be a bit more exciting than this. Fans turn up wanting to be entertained. That's part of what football is. You follow Celtic not just to see us grind out points, but to feel the buzz, the intensity, the attacking football that gets you off your seat. And right now, that buzz just isn't there. There's a weird flatness to everything. On the pitch, in the stands, the whole atmosphere just feels muted. But having said that, and maybe this will sound a bit contradictory, I didn't actually think the performance on Saturday against Hibernian was all that bad. In fact, I thought we were the better team for most of it. We created chances. We controlled possession. We pushed forward. The stats back that up. The only thing we didn't do, and it's the most important bit, was stick the ball in the back of the net. And that's the story of the game right there. If just one of those chances had fallen to the right boot or found the right angle, we'd all be talking about a solid away win, a clean sheet, and a much more confident performance. The thing is, Hibs didn't really offer anything in attack. Let's be honest. They were organized defensively, sure, and fair play to their keeper. He pulled off a couple of big saves, but they weren't threatening us going the other way. So if any of our forwards had been even slightly sharper in the final third, we'd have walked away with 3 points and a whole different narrative. So it's frustrating. Not because we were terrible, far from it, but because it's starting to feel like a pattern. A pattern of Celtic being almost there, but just lacking that final punch to get over the line. Some fans are raging about it, totally fed up. Others are more chilled, pointing to the positive signs, the build-up play, the control. And honestly, I think I'm stuck somewhere in the middle. I'm not in full meltdown mode, but I'm definitely not skipping down the road either. It just feels unconvincing, like we're coasting. And you start to wonder, what's the real identity of this team right now? What direction are we going in? What kind of Celtic are we actually watching this season? It's like we're waiting for a spark. One big result. One statement performance to kickstart everything. Because right now, it's all a bit stop-start. A bit hesitant. You can sense the team searching for rhythm, and us as fans are caught in that same limbo. Saturday felt like another example of that. Not a disaster by any stretch, but not inspiring either. You look at the chances and think, if Kelechi takes his opportunity, if Kenny finishes that move, if Maeda or McGregor finds the corner instead of the keeper's gloves, we're not even having this conversation. We'd be talking about grinding out results in tricky away games, the hallmark of a good team. Instead, we're sat here asking questions again, wondering where the goals are going to come from, wondering what's missing. And let's talk about some of those players. I actually thought Iheanacho had a decent game. He linked the play well, dropped deep when needed, tried to bring others in. That's what we've been wanting to see from a striker since the start of the season. The involvement, the movement, the intent. It's a step up from what we saw in the early weeks. Still needs that finishing touch, obviously, but the signs are there. Same with Marcelo Serra. Thought he had a strong outing. He's got a bit of that Greg Taylor vibe. Not afraid to whip balls into the box, aggressive in the right areas, decent engine. And he's already chipped in with an assist or 2. There's something brewing down that left-hand side with him and Teniekti. The chemistry is starting to form. So while the result was underwhelming, not everything was doom and gloom on the pitch. But there were things that grated too. The number of cheap free kicks we gave away was ridiculous. Just daft ones. Fouls in pointless areas where the Hibs player was going absolutely nowhere. Stuff that just kills momentum and invites pressure. Carter Vickers gave away a few. Engels had one at the end that was pure frustrating. It's those little moments that add up and chip away at control. And we've got to be smarter than that. What really had me scratching my head, though, was the foul count overall. Celtic committed 16 fouls in that match. Hibs? 1. That's not a typo. 1 foul. And it didn't even come until the 90th minute. That's wild. Especially when you consider we had something like 75% possession. That stat just doesn't make sense at face value. How can a team with only a quarter of the ball commit just one foul across 90 minutes? Maybe they were just that passive. Maybe we were overly aggressive. Probably a bit of both. But still, it's the sort of thing that raises eyebrows. Then there's the atmosphere, or lack of it. The 12-minute silent protest from the fans was noticeable, even watching on telly. And look, I understand the message behind it. Silence from the fans to mirror the silence from the board. Totally get that symbolism. The fans want answers. They want transparency. And they want a board that matches the ambition of the support. But the reality is, the start of that match felt flat. You could hear players shouting to each other. You could almost feel the confusion from the players on the pitch. Luke McCowan even said after the game it felt strange hearing his teammates so clearly during those first minutes. So yeah, the players are aware of it. Whether it affects performance or not is up for debate, but they definitely notice it. And now we're heading into a European night with a 29-minute silence planned? That's a third of the match. Against a team like Braga, who are no mugs by the way. They just beat Feyenoord in their Europa League opener. This isn't the kind of game where we want to be sleepwalking into the first half. Again, I get the principle behind the protest. I support the fans' right to voice their concerns however they see fit. But I also just want to get behind the team right now. I want to see Celtic push forward, build momentum, and give us a reason to believe again. And honestly, a bit of me wonders, is there not another way to make the point without potentially hurting the team's energy on the pitch? Like, what about a merchandise boycott? That hits the club financially without affecting the matchday vibe. It's something that could make an impact without taking the soul out of the stadium. Because as much as the board needs to be held accountable, the players need us too. Especially in moments where confidence looks a bit fragile. There's this awkward balance between protest and support right now, and I think a lot of fans are caught in the middle, frustrated at the lack of ambition off the park, but desperate to back the 11 lads on it. It's not an easy spot to be in. I felt the same after the transfer window closed. Angry, let down, wanting to see something drastic done. But now, a few weeks on, I just want to see Celtic wake up. Put a few performances together. Get that fire back. But here's the thing, the players can feel it too. You can tell just by looking at their faces during the games. The body language, the little hesitations, the half-second delays when a pass could be made or a shot taken. That confidence, that swagger we usually expect from a Celtic side, it's just not quite there. And it's not because they're not trying. You can see the effort. You can see the running. But it all feels a wee bit labored. Like they're carrying something extra, and it's weighing them down. And in this kind of environment, when the fans are uncertain, when the board's silent, when results aren't flying, it all adds up. What this team needs right now is a moment. A spark. One of those nights at Celtic Park where it all just clicks and the roof nearly comes off the place. The kind of win that reminds the players of who they're playing for and reminds us why we believe. And I think we're close to that. I really do. But we need to stop stumbling. Because right now, every time we feel like we're building towards something, a 0-0 or a flat performance knocks us sideways again. That's why Thursday is huge. Europa League or not, this match matters. It's not just about 3 points in the group. It's about what a win could do. For the confidence. For the fans. For the whole feel around the club right now. Because, make no mistake, Braga are a proper test. They might not have the glamour of a Champions League name, but they're a serious outfit. And if we go into that match timid, second-guessing ourselves, we'll get punished. Simple as that. But if we go at them with the intensity we showed in flashes against Hibs, tighten things up at the back, and, most importantly, take our chances, then we've got a real shot. Because this isn't about quality. Celtic have quality. We've got players who can hurt any team. The issue is rhythm, tempo, conviction, the kind of belief that says, we're going to win this no matter what. That's been missing lately. And part of the problem, if we're being honest, is the lack of consistency in the final third. It's not like we're not getting into good positions. We are. It's just that final touch, that composure in the box, the decision-making when it really counts. That's what's letting us down. You can build all the pretty moves in the world, but if the end product isn't there, you're not going to win matches. That's why we need somebody, anybody, to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and make something happen. That player could be McGregor, could be Maeda, could be Kenny, could be one of the new lads looking to make their mark. But someone's got to step up, because draws don't win titles, and they certainly don't get you out of a Europa League group. Speaking of titles, let's talk about Hearts for a second. 2 points ahead now, and some folk are already starting to panic. But I'm not one of them. Not yet. Yes, they've started well. Yes, they've shown good organization and hunger. But we've seen this before. A club outside the old firm comes flying out the gates. People start whispering about a title challenge, and then they fall away when the pressure ramps up. Aberdeen last season is the perfect example, and even Hearts in past years have followed that same pattern. So no, I'm not panicking, but I'm also not ignoring the fact that if we drop more points, we could find ourselves in a bit of a chase. And that's not where we want to be, especially not this early in the season. Because as much as I'm not worried about Hearts or Rangers or anyone else, I am worried about us. About how long it's taking to find our gear. The longer we wait for this team to click, the more pressure builds. And with that pressure comes more anxiety, more noise from the stands, and more second-guessing on the park. What Celtic need right now is clarity. In our play, in our decisions, in our leadership. And part of that starts with the board, to be fair. The ongoing tension between the fans and the upper levels of the club isn't helping anyone. The protests are born from real frustration. People feel like they're not being listened to. And when you support a club like Celtic, that means something. You're not just a customer, you're part of the fabric. So when the fans are feeling shut out, ignored, talked down to, it's going to boil over. But it's such a delicate balance, isn't it? Protest, yes, but how? When? Where? The silent protest on Saturday had its impact. But now we're looking at a 29-minute silence against Braga and a 32-minute one after that. There's a real risk it falls flat, that it starts to feel more symbolic than effective. And I say that with full respect to those organizing it. I know it comes from a place of real passion and real hurt. But again, I keep coming back to this. Is it actually helping the team? Because this squad isn't in full flight. They're not cruising at the top of the table. They need backing. They need the place to feel alive. Not a library. Not a tension pit. Alive. And I worry that the longer we keep this divide between the stands and the pitch, the more damage it could do. Again, I'm not saying give the board a free pass. Far from it. I just think maybe there's a different way of doing this. Something that still sends the message, but lets the players feel the support. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a growing murmur swirling around Glasgow, a whisper that has quickly gathered the weight of inevitability in the pubs, terraces, and press boxes alike. Scott McTominay, the Scotland international once bound for Italian adventure, is set to leave Napoli and take the reins at the very heart of Celtic's midfield. It feels almost too wild to believe, yet the story has that ring of truth football rumors sometimes carry. McTominay, whose combative style and knack for timely goals have made him a talisman for the national side, never quite seemed a natural fit under the Mediterranean sun. The Napoli chapter promised glamour, Champions League nights, and the allure of Serie A, but in whispers from Naples insiders, the word is that the fit was awkward, the tempo never truly his, and the bond with the Cava never quite sealed. And so the narrative shifts northward, back to the place where his presence would not merely be tolerated but celebrated. Celtic, desperate for a midfield general with bite and vision, appear ready to hand him the keys. Imagine the roar at Parkhead as McTominay strides out in green and white, dictating tempo, snapping into tackles, threading passes through lines of stubborn opposition. For a club that thrives on fire and steel as much as flair, it almost feels destined. The rumor has legs because it satisfies so many cravings at once. For Celtic supporters, it's the prospect of a Scotland hero anchoring their title charge. For McTominay, it's the chance to reassert himself in a league where his physicality and drive would not be out of place. And for Scottish football at large, it would be a headline move, a sign that Premiership clubs can lure back their finest sons from Europe's grand stages. Of course, until the ink is on the contract, it remains chatter, speculation, the stuff of radio phone-ins and late-night debates. But if McTominay does indeed swap Naples for Glasgow, one thing is certain. The midfield battle lines in Scotland will be redrawn, and Celtic Park will hum with a new kind of electricity. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.